Welcome to the basics of artifacts. So, artifacts have positive and negative effects, and depending on the armor you have, you can have up to 5 artifact slots. Some artifact slots will have a green outline, which means they are lead containers. Typically, these are upgrades that you have to pay for, and what those do is they negate radiation effects from that particular artifact. So if you have an artifact with a radiation debuff, which is a debuff that applies radiation to you, which will eventually damage you and can eventually kill you, it will negate that. And the radiation debuffs can also be negated by other artifacts. So there are a few artifacts that do not have a debuff at all. Some of them, most of them, tend to be the one-off legendary artifacts, like Weird Ball, Weird Water, and so on. So Weird Ball just reduces bullet damage, and it reduces a lot of bullet damage when standing still. I don't know the actual values on this. I tried testing it, and it seemed to be around like 20% or so, 20 to 30% roughly. It's kind of hard to test damage values in this game when enemies are shooting you, so you don't know what damage they're supposed to be dealing. But this is an example of an artifact that does not have any downside aside from it gets up to 5 kilograms as you take damage. When it reduces damage, and then eventually goes back down to 0.5 over time. So Weird Ball is one of the few like placed artifacts that is in a specific spot in the world that you have to find. These other artifacts are just randomly generated in specific locations, and when you go to those locations to artifact hunt, you will get a random artifact from a pool of artifacts often associated with the anomalies in that area, whether it be electro, acid, gravity, and so on. So the basics of balancing your build is if you do not have lead containers, you will need artifacts that reduce the incoming radiation, which has the effect radio protection. So the most basic thing is Slug or Mika. Both of those give you weak radio protection. So if you have an artifact that causes weak radiation radio protection will negate that. So now I just get a weight reduction, and then this artifact is just allowing me to safely equip this one. If I unequip this artifact, you will see the radiation icon pulsing, and I will start to slowly take radiation damage, and then eventually it'll start to damage me, and eventually it could kill me. So another thing to note is that 2 weak radio protections can protect 1 medium. So this is really useful to know because you can take 2 cheap common, like if you have 3 slots, you can take 2 cheap common radio protection artifacts and then use any medium. So you could use like a weight one, you could use one that has more utility, or maybe some damage reduction and so on. So this allows me to increase my carry capacity by 6 without taking radiation. So if I take one of these off, it'll start pulsing, which means I'm taking radiation effect and eventually damage. So there are other ones. So if you get a liquid rock, it has maximum radio protection, but it also has another benefit of maximum chemical protection. So this also protects you from chemical anomalies and chemical damage sources. So if I equip this, 1 maximum can negate another maximum, or it can negate 2 strong, which is good to know because some of these strongs are decent. So this strong, for example, gives you more endurance, which helps with sprinting. And it also increases bleeding resistance, which I believe removes bleed debuff from you over time. I'm fairly certain that's how it works. And the stronger the bleed removal, or the bleed resistance, the more it removes over time. So if we equip this, and then this strong bleed resistance, strong radiation, 1 maximum allows us to equip 2 strongs, a strong and a medium, 2 mediums. Actually, I think it'll allow you to equip 4 mediums. Let's test that to make sure. It should in theory, I'm pretty sure. So here's a medium. So we want to find, let's get some mediums. Doesn't really matter what the effects they have. Well, we can do 3. Okay, so we can do 3 mediums and a week? Nope, 3 mediums. Okay, so 1, maybe 4 weeks. Maybe 2 weeks. All right, so 1 maximum can get you 3 mediums. Let's see how many weeks it can get you. Like weak radiation. Okay, so it can get you 2 mediums and 2 weeks. And let's see about strong. So you can also get a strong, a medium, and a weak. So that's good to know. If you want to have like a specific build, or if you want to know what you can get away with. Let's say you have 4 artifact slots, you have a maximum. Well, you can get a strong, a medium, and a weak artifact, which actually isn't bad because there's like, I think I have a strong weight increase, a medium weight increase, and I should have, yeah, here's a weak weight increase. So now we have 3 weight increases off of 1 artifact, which is pretty nice. Of course, there's weird water, but that also applies that drunk effect, so I would just bring that in your inventory for hauling loot back, because then you don't have to worry about combat as much. You just throw it on yourself and just sprint back to like a base and sell stuff. But this is pretty good to know. For other things too, you can run multiple reductions. So for example, if we want to have like 2 strong radiation artifacts on our maximum, where is it here? And then we also want to have another reduction. We can then throw another, like a maximum in here if we have it. So this one provides physical protection strong. We also have this, physical protection strong radiation maximum. So with this build, we have a strong weight increase, which gives us 9 extra kilograms. And then we also have a strong bleed resistance. We could, of course, replace this with more carry capacity if we wanted. I don't have another strong carry capacity, so maybe I'd rather opt to run this. So this gives us some endurance. So this also helps with carrying stuff, because endurance is important for regen and like stamina conservation. So this helps with like running, and then this gives us protection. And then alternatively, if we were to have lead containers, if we had 2 lead containers in our tier 1 and tier 0, or I'm sorry, tier 1 and tier 2 slot, we could have this reducing these, and then we could just run 2 maximum in here for free. So there's interesting ways to balance these things out. This is by no means definitive for like all the different types of builds there are and all the different effects there are. Like let's say you know you're going to be looting like some kind of fire region, and you want to just max out like fire resistance. You could just look for the highest thermal protection, which I seem to only have like low ones. I have a bunch of like weak thermal protection. Let's see, here we go. No, that's also not it. Here we go, medium thermal protection. So we could run like this with maybe like 2 of these, actually 3 of these. That's a medium. Yeah, so we could run like this for like thermal protection. So thermal protection medium, thermal protection weak, thermal protection weak, weight weak. So if we know we're going to be encountering certain threats or certain environmental hazards, we can run this. Now you don't have to, because you can just spam healing kits and it's fine. So I don't really know that like the individual elemental protection is really good. I feel like most people opt for carry weights, endurance, and tanking. Those are probably the most common types of builds, at least that's what I've been running. So like I could run something like this for the physical defense, and then I could run these 2. So now I have bleed reduction, more sprinting, increased carry weight, and then extra physical defense on top of my already very high physical defense. So, you know, this allows me to do that. And I also have absurd chemical protection. So if I encounter a chemical spill or like the acid or anything like that, I'm pretty tanky to it, like poison clouds, acid, those types of anomalies. So this is like just a basic starter guide of how you want to be thinking about things. Now, obviously, you're limited by what you have. So like if you don't have liquid rocks, like it took me like 20 hours of gameplay to get my first liquid rock on the save file. So if you don't have liquid rocks, like honestly, most of the playthrough, I was running something like this. I was just running these 2 and like that. Just like, or like a spring. So like 2, I was running 2 weak radio protections and then a spring, and that's it for 6 extra carry weight. And then sometimes if I had a 4th slot, I'd just throw in Weird Ball in there. But Weird Ball, it ends up weighing a lot, so I actually don't think it's worth it. And the damage reduction doesn't seem to be very good. It seems to be decent, but I can't really tell how much it's reducing damage by sometimes. Maybe like a third or like 20% or something. So yeah, that's it for this one. Just a basic artifact build guide. Generally, I always opt for weight, but you can opt for protection. Depends on how much you carry. Generally, you're going to need to sell stuff, so yeah, that's it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you found this useful. And also drop a comment as to what builds you prefer for your artifact loadouts, because I'm sure there's some interesting ones that I don't know about and that other people don't know about. All right, peace.